What's up, everybody? It's Tolly Carr, Simone Stanley. We have not seen you guys here lately because we've been so busy. Do you remember the SIAC basketball tournament? Simone was sidelining. What'd you do, 8 days in a row?
I don't even remember. Yes, 8 days, I think. Sunday to Sunday.
I was doing halftime from here. I took that first Sunday off. Simone, you did a great job. Sideline reporting. I was at SWAC doing color analysis. So we've been all over the place. But March Madness is still going on, so we're here to talk about it. Let's start with the big story, Simone. The Grambling men, they went to the first four. HBCUs a lot of times go to the first four, but they got a big win, come from behind over Montana State. What is the vibe right now for the Grambling men? They will take on Purdue this weekend. What is it like? You're connected. What is the buzz about Grambling right now?
You always say I'm connected.
You are.
But the vibes are good. Grand Fam made history. They won the SWAC for the first time. Then they get their first NCAA tournament win, and they are very hot right now. We know when it comes to March, it's all about who has the hot hand. So I know Purdue is, the big team, big seed.
Number one seed.
Player
of the year.
A lot of star power on that team. But at the end of the day, you got to hit the court. You got to hoop. It all comes down to who's hot. Grambling right now is hot.
They are. But Purdue did lose to a 16 seed last year.
Now, I will say Purdue is one of those teams that's good for an upset, like getting upset in the
That's
tournament.
what I'm saying. Last year, they lost to Fairleigh Dickerson, a number 16 beat a 1 for just the second time, and that was Purdue. So I don't like the odds of them losing to a 16 seed 2 years in a row, but things happen. All right, let's look at the matchup. Zach Edey is the guy for Purdue. He's pretty much the top player in college basketball. He's a 7'4" center, and look, he's the guy. He leads the NCAA in scoring, 24.4. You see his rebounds, assists,
averaging a double-double.
Yeah, he's getting it done. So Jonathan Aku is not the star player for Grambling, but he is the guy that plays the most and is the tallest. So he's gonna see Zach Edey in their matchup. All right. So you see his points there. The biggest number though would be his height. He's 6'11". Zach Edey, I think, is 7'4". So Aku is mobile. He's big and strong. So he's a quality player. But he will have his hands full. I think a matchup that might be a little more interesting, let's go to the point guard, shooting guard matchup. All right, so you see Braden Smith. Simone, look at that number right there. That is Steph Curry-esque right there, 44.8%. You see he's 12.5 points. Tremichael Moten, a fifth-year senior, points about the same. Assists, Grambling just plays a different style of basketball. Look, when you got a 7'4" guy that you can feed and alley-oop, you're gonna get a lot of assists there.
Right.
Steals right on. Tremichael, a good three-point shooter, not quite as good as Braden Smith. But here's the thing, Simone, basketball. You got a deadly three-point shooter. You can't just pack in the zone and try to say, all right, we're going to shut down the 7'4" guy, because all he's going to do is catch a high lob and high entry pass and kick it back out to his three-point shooters. So Grambling's going to have to really get into their X's and O's bag when you got 7'4" player of the year down low and people shooting 44% from behind the line.
Tremichael was showing off the moves, though, against Montana State. He was showing he could really get to the basket. Pivot, spin move, floater gang was working, layup package strong. So if they can continue, their guards can continue to pull out those tricks from their bag, then they definitely can stay in this one. And also playing that fast pace. I'm not sure how fast Edey is. I don't know his 40 time, but usually big men are a little bit slower. So if Grambling can get going in the transition game and those guards can convert, then I can see them hanging around.
All right, we heard from Dante Jackson. He talked after their win against Montana State prior to their game against Purdue. He talked about the similarity of the teams and what might be a little different because Montana State did shoot all those three-pointers as they jumped ahead. Let's hear now from Dante Jackson as he talked about the matchup against Purdue.
To me, it's a little bit different, the way they play compared to the way Purdue plays. I mean, we know we're going to have to guard the ball screen, and they did a lot of ball screens, but they also throw it into Zach and, try to get that double team and then throw it back out for rotations. Whereas yesterday, their post player, he drove it from the top of the perimeter and kind of was a mismatch problem. So it was kind of different in that aspect. But we got to be ready to guard the three because that's the thing. You put a lot of focus on Zach, and the next thing you know, you give up these threes, and now you out of the game. And like I always tell people all the time, twos don't beat you, threes do. So we just got to be prepared to play.
So a lot of attention on the 7'4" guy, obviously, but as Coach Jackson said there, threes will kill you. Threes are what beats you. Simone, chances are Grambling's not going to win this game. What would you consider a win, though, if they don't get a win on the scoreboard? We hope they do, but I'm not putting money on it. What would be a win for Grambling?
A win is winning, Tommy.
I know that, but I'm just saying.
Well, Grambling already won by winning that first 4 game. It's a full article out on HBCU Game Day with the numbers that the SWAC will be getting paid. Hundreds of $1,000s is going to be paid out to the SWAC because of that first 4 win. So they already made history. They already made a bag for the conference. If they can go out and upset the number 1 seed, that's just the internet is going to explode. There's already been a few upsets so far in the tournament. Oakland upsetting Kentucky. So the lower seed programs, they're hot right now. They're hot this weekend.
They are. But look, it's only happened twice, a 16 beating a 1. I would feel a little more, the basketball gods might be on the side of Grambling if Purdue had not just lost to a 16
But
last
also
year.
that goes to show that could make Grambling more motivated. Like, can lightning strike twice? Maybe. But if I know that these boys just got upset last year, I know that they're upsettable versus a team, a program, a coach that,
and it might be on their mind.
It might be on their mind. Now they're scared. They should, like, man, we can't lose. We can't lose. We can't lose. We can't lose. So, they're trying to be over perfect. They're trying to overcorrect. They already saw Oakland upset somebody. So Grambling, they might have them shaking in their boots. Farley Dickinson on that mind.
I like your optimism. I don't normally see that from you, but I like it.
It's basketball. Anything can happen,
Yeah,
especially in tournament time. And
Yeah.
if you have a team like Purdue that gets upset, that's a stain.
All right, let's talk about the women here. We got a lot of women in action. We're going to look at the NIT and the NCAA as we continue this talk of potential upsets. Look, I just love the fact that the Jackson State women, the Norfolk State women really got some respect in terms of not just getting thrown that 16 seed. You got the Jackson State women, they were a 14 seed, and Norfolk State women a 15 seed. So we got WNIT action. You got the Grambling women. Don't forget about them. They beat Oral Roberts, so they're going to take on ULM, Louisiana Monroe, and the North Carolina A&T women will be hosting a WNIT game. They'll be taking on UNCG, crosstown rival there. Simone, you know all about that.
336, baby.
Of course, the NCAA tournament is going to get just a little bit more attention, especially with the Blue Bloods that Jackson State will be playing. UConn, which is a 3 seed this year, not quite the dominant program that they have been in years past, but still very, very good. And of course, Stanford, number 2 seed, an excellent program as well, obviously traditionally as well. Which of these games, which one excites you the most?
Obviously, I think Jackson State, UConn.
Because Jackson State had LSU beat 2 years ago and lost that one in the final minute. And so we have seen Jackson State actually go in to a powerhouse and almost win the game.
Yes, and Jackson State, the ladies are the team that all of HBCU Twitter is talking about. Of course, Norfolk State too, but Jackson State has a huge fan base, and it's a lot of talk. It's a lot of buzz around that game. I think the game is being held at UConn. I think UConn is hosting those first 2 rounds.
Yep.
So obviously they're going to have the home court advantage. Paige Beckers is back. You talked about UConn not being the big UConn of the past, but Paige Beckers has been injured. So she's now playing this season. It's going to be a lot of star power on the court. This is a game that's going to have a lot of attention Saturday. Go ahead and circle that.
All right. So when Jackson State almost beat LSU a couple of years ago, like that was a huge win. It's a thing that people still talk about. Simone, what do you think HBCUs have to do, particularly a program like Jackson State, when it's like, hey, give us that respect. We're tired of the 16 seed. Like, all right, here you go. Here's a 14 seed. What do they have to do to continue that trajectory of respect growing and maybe, even get higher than 15, 14 seed?
Win. Wait.
I mean, look, they're not expected as a 14 seed to win.
Yeah,
is there what level of play? Like how close does the game need to be for people that make these decisions to look and say, all right, they played like a 14 seed. Maybe next year they could be a 13, or maybe one day we look at them as a 12. Or
I would say within 15 points, 15, 12-point range. I think that.
I feel like a win would be or at least a small win in the game, if they can get to a point where like Connecticut has to call a timeout. Like Oriama's like, hold on, I don't like what I'm seeing.
Right.
They put UConn in peril early in the game. Jump out to a lead, because one thing that Jackson State did, they changed up their style. I think we got some highlights when they played UAPB. They came out and just really fed the post early and shocked UAPB in terms of what UAPB was expecting. They were expecting some heavy hitting guard play. And then it was down low. They were killing them with Angel Jackson down there. So if they can come out and just do something that UConn doesn't expect and maybe lead in the first half or really, really keep that thing close, I think that would be a win within the win.
Yes, coaching is going to be a big part of it too. When you see lower ranked teams upsetting higher ranked teams, a lot of it is the coaching, the play calling, the timely timeouts. That has a huge part of that as well. So we're going to definitely be looking out for Coach Reed and seeing what game plan she has.
And, Simone, when I said I think we have some highlights, what I was really saying is I know we have some highlights. And I know Miles is going to roll the highlights.
I told you he was going to be messing up.
Give some love to the
He got
Jackson
AD
State
on the
women.
mind.
There we go. Y'all pregame be talking about other stuff. But you see Angel Jackson there. She can really step out and hit that free throw line, extended jump shot. Really good finishing with both hands around the bucket, either right hand or left hand. You see the left hand right there. And look, I love UAPB. That's a quality program. It's obviously going to be a step up in competition when you play UConn. But excellent guard play. You see Luckett there. Look, these guards for Jackson State, they have been around. These are 4-5-year players, but I would love to see what they're able to do against UConn, because that is that's top 5 program, and that's going to be an exciting game that a lot of people are going to have their eyes on. So Simone says keep it under 15. That you keep your respect level.
Absolutely.
All right. I'm with you. I'm buying it. All right, let's go back to men's action. No one in the NIT. Let's talk about that for a second. This was the year that NIT got rid of the automatic qualifier. So if you won the SWAC regular season or MEAC regular season, but didn't win the postseason to get the NCAA berth, in years past, you went to the NIT. Mm-hmm. This year, they got away from it, and they just picked at-large bids. No HBCU made.
Nobody?
No, and that was the fear, like that it wasn't going to happen. Think that's shady? Nope. Norfolk State won, and let me explain that graphic. You might say, "Oh, you got the names wrong." So they're in the College Insider, and both Alabama A&M and Norfolk State made the semifinals, and they're calling that the John McClendon Classic. So Norfolk State is playing Alabama A&M, which is why that's under their logo.
And this is men's?
Yes, and Alabama A&M is playing Norfolk State. So that's why that's there. So that game is going to be on Saturday.
Wait, I'm sorry. What? Alabama A&M is playing 2 teams?
No. Alabama A&M is playing Norfolk State. The opponent is beneath the logo. So Norfolk State is playing Alabama A&M.
In 2 different tournaments?
No. It's one game. I just tried to fill the screen up with stuff.
It's the College Insider McClendon Classic.
Well, it's the College Insider Tournament, but each game at the College Insider Tournament gets its own name.
Okay.
So this particular game is the McClendon Classic. So Norfolk State won the MEAC regular season.
Okay.
Alabama A&M did not win the tournament or the regular season. But they got an at-large bid. Very good team. Very good team.
And we have freshman of the year, Alabama A&M, Chad Moody, who I had the pleasure of covering in high school. Went
really
to
good.
Grayson High School, really top dog.
And I watched him. I watched him play. He plays in spurts offensively. Once he gets it rolling, I think he tied for blocks, most blocks. Average blocks in the SWAC. And Simone, here's the thing about Moody. He still has his high school body. Like when you look at him, you're like, okay, he's a young kid. Like you can see that. Like he hadn't got his shoulders and deltoids and biceps and all that. There is so much potential because he hasn't even filled out his frame yet.
Yes, it's good to see these guys, translating so well, their game translating so well from the high school level to the college level. So shout out to the Moody.
But here's the thing about HBCUs.
What, them getting transferred?
Those kids get good, and it's a recruiting tool.
Right.
The bigger schools come in. We just saw your guy. It was your guy from Howard, Shy Odom.
Shy Odom. We had a good interview with Shy Odom, too.
Shy Odom from Howard. Jerry Ding. I think it's Jerry. Last name, Dang.
Dang. You leaving?
In the portal. And that's what happens.
Right.
Your best or the player that you see the potential that can be your best player in, his sophomore or junior year, they're all jumping in the portal because these other schools are coming in with, and I think we should define. There's a difference between NIL and just getting paid.
Right.
It's not necessarily like, hey, we got this car dealership that wants to support. Like, no, we got a bag.
Right.
Here's your cut.
a bag. But let me see if I can get a little inside scoop.
And I'm not saying Moody is. There's no report of that.
I was thinking that too.
But he's the type of player that comes in. You're like, all right, let's see how he does. You're like, oh, okay, I can see that. Well, we get that kid in our weight room, he's going to be something. So,
and especially like the teammates that he played with, they're all Power 5 players at Grayson. Like one of his teammates is going to Purdue next season. He's a senior. All the guys are getting Power 5 offers. So,
and Alabama A&M has a fabulous facility. They have that brand new facility, so their facility is on par, with mid-major programs. But it still comes down to who can show up and say, "Look, I can give you this many zeros and commas, and however much it turns out to be." So you can have great facilities and all that, but people, kids, adults, we all money talks. It talks, and it ends up with people walking. All right, so there's going to be at least one upset out of all these matchups we talked about between now and Monday. We got games Friday, Saturday, Monday. Simone.
You didn't hit Grambling women.
I did. I said they're playing ULM. We had the graphic.
Oh, that's it? You didn't hit Norfolk State Stanford?
Yeah, I said Norfolk State is the 15 seed. They're playing.
I didn't know if you was going to give some commentary.
Well, look, I have lost my East Coast bias. I'm with you. I'm here in Atlanta, and I leave here and I go to Alabama, and so I'm no longer Team CIAA and MEAC here at HBCU Game Day because geographically, I'm SIAC and SWAC. But
upset.
Which one out of men and women, like out of all these games, which one do you think we would either get a win or which one do you think would be the closest?
I'm not a bracketologist. I have many titles.
Or which one would you want to see? Like which one do you think would?
That's gonna get me in trouble because then it's why you want to see that.
No, I'm just saying like which one would carry the most
weight,
the most bang. If this team, I mean,
well,
obviously,
Norfolk State is playing the highest seed
on the women's side.
On the women's side. So I could see that would be the biggest bang. I feel like people have Stanford going all the way to the Final Four. So I think Norfolk State beating Stanford, big bracket buster.
I think Jackson State would give more lift to everyone because of the way they played LSU, and I think Jackson State's journey might be more sustainable. I know Norfolk State really got some players this year that made this year a special year. I think Jackson State, out of all those teams, men and women, have been the most consistent as far as being dominant at the HBCU level and needing to take that next step. Mm-hmm. So I think the way Jackson State played LSU, almost won that game. if they were to come in and knock off Connecticut or even play Connecticut at that same level, you could be like, look, this is not a fluke. We have seen what this program has done the last 2 times they were in the NCAA tournament. And I think that would give them more respect. And to a certain degree, it might trickle down to HBCU women's basketball, especially with, the year Norfolk State had as well over in the MEAC. But if Grambling men were to knock off Purdue, that would be the biggest win.
That would
of
not
all
be
time.
the big. I would still think one of the women's upset would be the biggest ones.
But that's the 16-1.
Yeah, but again,
that would go down in history.
Yeah, that would go down in history. But I'm saying just talk of the town, because as we know, the women's college
it's more popular.
season has been way more popular this season. I think it will get way more. It'll be way more conversation around.
Good point.
Paige being a first round exit, Cameron Brink being a first round exit, than it would be Purdue, who just got upset last year. So I think the women, this is her story. So I think there's so much more conversation around the women's college basketball scene.
Why do you think that is? It's kind of amazing. I'm even more excited to watch a women's game than I am.
I think it's the star power, the stars that are all literally in college at one time. It's a lot of stars right now on the women's college side. I think it's more than on the men's side. So it's just way more excitement, I think, around the women's game right now.
Another thing, and I noticed this at the SWAC because, they alternate between girls' games, boys' games, or, women's games, men's games. So you have 4 games a day. You'll see, 2 from the ladies, 2 from the men. When you watch the women's game, it's like the skills and the fundamentals are on display. And when you watch the men's game, it's like whoever's stronger and faster. Like as soon as the men games start, it's like people are just bowling each other over. They're knocking each other down. There's collisions in midair. It's almost like men's tennis was, maybe I'm going to date you, or date myself. Like men's tennis became unwatchable when all they did was ace each other, right? Like they couldn't return the serve. And you just get up there and Pete Sampras just... And you're like, well, I don't want to see them just ace each other. And then the Williams sisters came along, and it was just so much more enjoyable because you had the back and forth. So, while the athletic ability of men, the men's game has grown so much that it's literally just, who's the strongest, who's the fastest. And it's almost like a, gladiator type sport where I think it's more just enjoying to watch the women's game because it comes down to skill, coaching, X's and O's. It's not so much that, there are opportunities, Caitlin Clark and all that, where one player can just dominate. But the women's game, it's more team-oriented. I just enjoy watching it more.
Someone needs to do a psychological study on why men need to do that.
Someone smarter than me. That was just my opinion, and you might agree or disagree. But it is especially jarring when you finish watching a women's game and then 20 minutes later there's a men's game and you're like, wow, this is a total different visual experience.
Definitely more physical.
Yeah, for sure. All right, so enjoy the March Madness. I don't think you're supposed to say that, but I don't think, we got 1 million people watching, so they're not going to bother us. But enjoy the basketball this weekend. Some big matchups. Hopefully, come Monday, Tuesday, we'll have some teams still alive and we can still talk about it. I'm Tolly Carr. She's Simone Stanley. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with us. Enjoy that weekend.